Are you a product of your environment? Well, let me ask you this. How many of us have been in a room where somebody goes, I can guarantee you that you yawned right after them. Now, this wasn't because you were tired, but rather it was because of the environment that you were put in. Where else is our environment affecting us in our lives? In this video, I'm going to be covering why our environment is so important, how it impacts us, and what we can do about it. Guys, so let's look at our whiteboard here. So the first thing that I want to cover is the psychology of why we are products of our environment, and just basically how important our environment has always affected us even from an early age. So if we look at here, from the ages of 0 to 7 years old, your subconscious mind is programmed to the most of its ability. So you basically come out into the world, and this is you as a kid between the ages of 0 and 7. So now everything around you in your environment is basically getting soaked in to your mind, because you hear it all the time, kids are sponges. And if you don't believe me, go cuss around a little kid and watch how much they start to say it after that. Because if they see you do it, they probably say, well, that's something I should probably be doing too. So your mind at this point is open to everything. It's collecting data, it's collecting information, it's trying to collect what your role is in that environment and trying to make sense of it. So everything that's around here is going to start flowing in here. So let's use the variables x and y to represent different things that can be happening. So let's say, for instance, you are 4 years old and your parent is smoking a cigarette in the car. Did you know that there's actually there's an increase of 4 times that person who is at this age will end up being a smoker when they're older? So it also might be, you might have gotten bit by a dog and now you're scared of dogs. You might have watched somebody drown in the ocean in a movie, or got bitten by a shark and now you're scared to go swimming, or you're scared of the water. And a lot of this might be subconscious that you're going to have to actually go back to and start to analyzing yourself, but we'll get into that. So X and Y. So let's say X and Y is who you believe you are. So the environment around us influences our personality, our belief systems, and our behavior. And this also goes for you at the age that you are now watching this video. Everything around you, you're still collecting data on it, and you are trying to soak all that in. But it's the most strong when you're this age. So what's the difference between this one and this one? Well, the subconscious is basically closed off. So when you learn X and Y as a kid, it makes you who you are. So now you say, oh, well, this is just who I am. It's just who I am. And some people will use that as an excuse not to change. But the reason that you can change is because you have a conscious mind. So you don't have a conscious mind at this age, because if you got a kid and you try to have it live on its own, it's not going to happen, because he does not have a thinking, conscious mind. Your subconscious mind is your automatic mind. It's on autopilot, and this is your thinking, decision-making, critically thinking mind. So because you have this, now you can start to influence your environment and make decisions that will ultimately change your subconscious mind. So let's go back to this side. So your environment influences your personality, your belief system, your behavior. What do these three things influence in your life? So these 3 things are going to influence your decision making. So now, what do your decisions influence? Your lifestyle. So if your environment influences your personality, your belief systems, your behavior, these influence your decisions, and then your decisions influence your lifestyle. So if you don't like the current lifestyle that you're living, what do you have to do? You need to go to the root problem. So you can go back to decisions and you can start to go back to, okay, your behavior. But the number one thing that you can control, and it's where everything basically starts, is your environment. So some people feel stuck in their situation. So I'm going to cover the 3 problems that is keeping people stuck in their current situation. So the 3 problems that people are stuck in is they're basically in their comfort zone. And it's actually not a comfort zone because most people are not comfortable. They're just used to their environment or their situation. So they're in their used to zone. So for me to explain a principle or to explain an idea, I'm going to tell you a story. So say I have a pot, right? And it's boiling water. If I grab a frog and I try to throw it in the water, it's going to basically try and get out as fast as possible. It's going to try and jump out. But now, on the contrary, if I get a pot and it's room temperature, not boiling, I get that same frog and I put it in that water. It's going to say, okay, this is comfortable. I can get used to this. And then I crank it on 1 degree. They'll be like, oh, it's basically still, this is basically still what I know. It's a little uncomfortable. 2 degrees, 3 degrees, 4 degrees, 50 degrees, 100 degrees. And now, because I started slowly increasing it, it didn't have the willpower to react because it just said, well, this is just all I've known. This is all I've been used to. And now that it starts to get real hot, it's going to say, okay, I need to get out of here. I'm going to jump out. The frog is going to try to jump out, but because it sat in that environment for so long, it became weak and unable to jump out. And ultimately, that environment and that used to zone is going to kill that frog. So we need to really be paying attention to the environments that we put ourselves in and that we put our spirits into and that we put our energy into, because a lot of times that environment can end up killing us. And it's not just the environment, it's the people in that environment. So sometimes it might be your friends that you're with and that you've grown up with and that you've been so comfortable with knowing for so long. And it could be your family. So maybe you don't have a great support system, and maybe your parents spoke death into your life, and not actual death, and maybe they did, but basically they told you weren't good enough, they told you weren't strong enough, they told you that you couldn't go to college because nobody else in the family did, and like, what makes you think that you're going to be different? And they could be basically forcing a lot of these generational curses into your life that you took and placed in your subconscious mind. And guys, this is gonna help you really understand who you are as a person and find your identity. So the perfect story that I could do to describe this is, we'll go back to the bucket. So now if I get a bucket and I throw a crab in a bucket, the crab by itself will be able to get out of that environment. Now, if I get 10 crabs and I put them in that same bucket, not one of them are going to be able to jump out. Because what do crabs do? Crabs are going to basically start to latch on to the other crabs while they're in there. And they're going to be trying to get on top of each other and basically fight to get out. So because there's so much competition within that environment, nobody ends up winning. So one crab might make it to the rim, and the second that it gets to the rim, the other crab is going to grab him, boom, pull him down. You're not getting out of here because you're not going without me, and I'm not letting you leave this environment because this is all that we're supposed to know. So the people in your life, the crabs, might be trying to keep you in that same environment so that they don't feel bad. Because sometimes if you're successful and someone else is not, that's around you, it puts up a mirror to them and they will look at themselves and it makes them feel bad. So by keeping you down and pulling you back in, it helps them feel better and it helps them feel more content with the decisions that they've made in their life. And basically our environment and the people in there can go to our third problem, is it will end up making us focus on our lack, which is going to be our downfall. Because everybody has a gift that they were given and that they can use to be successful and have a great, fantastic, beautiful life. Some people's lives are on easy mode. Some people's lives may be on hard mode. But if you start to use this video and apply it to your life, you're going to be able to make changes that are going to help you. So if you're focusing on your lack, you have no tools. It's the same thing as if you open up a toolbox and there's no tools. Because I'm focusing on what I don't have. But if I said, oh, if I open up a toolbox and there's everything that I can use and that I actually spent time focusing on in my abundance, so you might be a creative person. You might be somebody who's always understood how to bake or how to cook. Or maybe you're just good at doing something like working on cars, or maybe you just have that interest that you've always been interested in as a kid. So we're going to get into this at the end. But when you go back to when you were a kid and you start to analyze what you've actually liked, that was actually the gift that you were given to go and build the life with. But we get so distracted by our environment, and that's what holds us back. Because a lot of us are just products of our environment, and we need to learn that and make changes by that. So in the story of Adam and Eve, basically Adam and Eve were in the garden, and they had all this abundance around them. They had trees that they could go and get every fruit out of. They had animals everywhere. But for there to be good in the world, there also has to be bad. So God placed one bad tree in the middle of the garden. So now that environment had one bad thing, and there was one bad person or a serpent in that garden. So that one person was able to make Adam and Eve focus on their lack to where it distracted their brains so much that they went against what they were actually put in the garden to do. So what ends up happening is they eat the fruit, and then they said, oh my gosh, I'm naked. They try to make clothes for themselves, and then now they're scared, and they're like, oh man, God's going to be mad at me, all this stuff like that. So now God's looking for Adam and Eve. And when they come out, he said, oh, why were you hiding? And they said, oh, well, I was hiding because I was naked and I was scared. So my favorite part of that whole story is when God says, who told you you were naked? So who gave you your limitations in your life? So when you actually speak these words of death and say, I'm not smart enough, who told you you weren't smart enough? Who told you you weren't fast enough, strong enough? Who told you you didn't have the willpower? And when you start to believe that, you're putting your belief in something that's negative, and then that's going to manifest, and then you're going to feel helpless. But look at your limitations that you set in your own mind and be able to make a change off of that. Because at the end of the day, someone's opinion of you does not have to be your reality. Someone's opinion of you does not have to be your reality. You can make your own reality and do what you want to do, but you have to believe in yourself first. Because some people will actually stick up for their limitations. But the problem with that is that if you stick up for your limitations, you actually get to keep them. And why would you want to keep your limitations? Why wouldn't you want to just open up all these pathways for yourself and be able to go learn and be able to build the most beautiful life that you could possibly live? Because you only get one shot. So let's make it happen. So what are the 3 solutions that we can begin to apply to our lives, that we can make a change and stop letting our environment influence us so much? So we need to start to analyze. You need to actually start spending a lot of time sitting back and reflecting and learning. And when you get to analyze your environment, the people that you keep around you, and your perspective on life, you're going to be able to find the little pieces, and it might be in your past and it might be now, but most of the time you're going to end up right back here of something that you learned when you were little that you've kept with you for so long. So maybe you failed that one test, and after that you've always said, oh, I'm bad at school, and you believe that, and then that's what happened, is because you believed it. So you're going to spend a lot of time analyzing, and that is going to increase your awareness. So I want to write this here so you guys don't miss it. So when you analyze, your awareness is going to be increased. So what music are you listening to? If you're listening to music that's always talking about guns and gangs and killing people, most of the time you're just going to be focused on guns, gangs, and killing people. Or, anything else that might just be about chasing girls and getting money and all this kind of stuff. And a lot of times that could just be negative because it influences that music is our environment, because that's what we're putting into our atmosphere. Then after we analyze that, we can picture, okay, now who's the person that I want to be? So you need to start to look at yourself in the future and say, okay, what's the person that I want to be and that I know that I can be? And once you start to picture that, you can start to go back and say, okay, now that I picture it, what do I picture my environment to look like? Who are the people that I want to keep around me? And who do I need to get rid of? And then I need to focus on abundance and not lack. So let's scribble this out. And we want to focus on abundance, because if we use abundance and use what we have, we can go and build things with it. Because guys, it's up to you. You can be the progenitor in your family. You need to be the person who is the first to go to college, or the first to be a millionaire, or be the first to just do anything that's really big. Because you just need to break those generational curses. So just because you come from the same cloth doesn't mean that you can't be a different garment. That's a bar. That's a bar. So take full responsibility for everything, because now that you have a conscious mind, you can take control. So don't say, oh, well, I can't control my environment, because yes, you can, because you have that conscious mind. You have that capability. You are not 0 to 7 anymore. So take full responsibility. And instead of being a product of your environment, you need to learn to be able to take your environment and end up making that a product of you. So use your environment and then make that a product of you. You can be able to use yourself to change your environment. Don't be a product of your environment, but use yourself to change the environment. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Go and change your life. Look at the people that you're keeping around. Look at the conversations that you're having, and really go and take advantage of your life, because you're blessed and highly favored. Go and make something happen. And if you guys are enjoying this YouTube channel, I would really love the feedback. I really want to start speaking life into you guys and just teach you guys what I'm learning and what's impacting me the most in my life. You guys are awesome if you've finished this whole video with me. I'll see you on the next one. Thank you guys.